Leetcode problem 2145 called the hidden sequence. So we are given a differences array. So for this difference array, it is coming from a hidden sequence. So for example, if we have the first number 3, so for the next number it's going to be 4, because 4 minus 3 it is 1, and next number is going to be 1 because 1 minus 4 it is a negative 3, and for the next number it's going to be 5 because 5 minus 1 it is going to be this number 4. We just need to check how many possible sequences. So in this example there are 2 sequences. So what about we just try some other numbers. So let's say, what if the first number is 5? What happens? Yeah, so for the next number it's going to be 6, and after that it's going to be 3, and after that it's going to be 7. But this 7 is more than the upper, because the upper value is 6, so that means it is not possible. Yeah, actually it is only 2 possible cases, so we're going to return 2. But exactly how can we solve the problem? We should know that all the numbers are going to become something like a curve. So the curve is going to be like this. So if we know the smallest value and the biggest values, if we know the minimum value and the maximum value, so definitely we know how to solve the problem. So for example, if the maximum value minus the minimum value is a value x, now we should use this x to solve the problem. So for example, if the maximum value minus the minimum value, for example, it is 4, and our lower and upper is 6. So how many possible cases? So there are only 2 possible cases. Yeah, because the maximum value minus the minimum value gonna become 4, and the upper value is 6. So if the upper value is 6, so for this curve, what's gonna be the minimum value? It is 2. So 2 and 6 is inside of the lower and upper. So what if the upper value is 5? So we're gonna choose a value 1, because 1 to 5 is still inside of the range, because the distance is gonna be 5 minus 1 is gonna be 4. So what if we choose other values? For example, if we choose a value 4, so the lower value is gonna be 0. 0 is not possible because the lower value is gonna be at least 1. If we choose a value 7, so 3 is not possible because the lower value is just because the upper value going to be less than or equal to 6, but currently it is 7. This means the 7 is not possible. But how can we find the minimum value and maximum value? This is easy. And we just need to set the first value to be x. And then the minimum value may be x minus 2, and the maximum value may be x plus 2. So the absolute distance is going to be this one minus this one, which is going to be 4. Yeah. So for our case, let's just set the first value to be 0. Yeah, because for us, we just need to calculate the distance, the maximum minus the minimum. We just need to check this distance, because for others it doesn't matter. Yeah. So if we set the first value to be 0, so what about the next value? It's going to be 1. Yeah. So 0, 1, 1 minus 0, it is 1. So what about the next value? It is negative 3, so it's going to be negative 2, because negative 2 minus 1, it's going to be negative 3. So what about the next one? It's going to be 2, because 2 minus negative 2 is going to become 4. So this is the case. Now we're going to check the maximum value minus the minimum value. 2 minus 2, it is 4. So this means the distance is 4. So what's going to be our final result? It's going to be the upper value 6 minus the lower value 1. So it's going to be 5, and minus the distance 4, and plus 1. So this is exactly the result. So it's going to be 2. Yeah, and we should be familiar with such kind of calculation, because currently our range is 1 to 6. Yeah, so 6 minus 1, it is 5. But here, for our distance, we calculated it is 4. If it is 4, this means the 4 it can be here, from here to here, or this 4 can be here to here. But there are only 2 different cases. Yeah. So that means the answer is going to be 2. This is just a very simple mathematical calculations. Yeah, because this is 5, this distance is 5, we need to have a distance 4, it must be this one, and we have to make it inside, or this one, but you cannot make it like from here, but it goes out of the range. Definitely you cannot do that. Now let's just try to solve it. So I'm gonna prepare a previous value. It's gonna be 0, and I'm gonna set the minimum and maximum value to be 0 as well. So the previous value, minimum value, and maximum value from the beginning, I'm gonna set it to be 0. Now I'm gonna check the difference array. So for D inside the differences array. So what's gonna be the current value? So the current value gonna be D plus the previous value. So in our example, the current value gonna be 1 because the previous value we're gonna set it to be 0. Yeah, you can set this value to be 0 or others, it doesn't matter. But for me, I would like to set it to be a 0. Yeah. Now we have the current value. So what's gonna be the maximum and minimum? So maximum gonna be the maximum of the maximum value, which is current, and the minimum value gonna be the minimum of the minimum value, which is the current. Now what about the previous value? We're gonna set the previous value to be the current value. And now finally, we just need to return the final answer. It's gonna be the upper minus lower minus D and plus 1. So D is gonna be the difference. Let me just use a diff. So this diff gonna be the maximum value minus the minimum value. Yeah, as you can see, the coding is quite clean. And also we need to check if there's no such cases, we're gonna return a 0. But for our example 3, the result is -3. So definitely this means if it is -3, it means definitely it is not possible. Yeah, if it is not possible, we're gonna return 0. So we're gonna use a maximum of 0 with our answer. So our answer is going to be at least to be a 0 instead of negative values. Now as you can see it works, and let me just submit it. Yeah, as you can see from the coding, this is just their own time complexity. So that is why we can pass, because n is 10 to the power 5. Definitely we cannot use brute force. I think that's all about it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.